Thank you for taking the time to watch this video about Optional Practical Training, or OPT. To put it simply, OPT is the opportunity to work in order to gain practical experience that will add to your resume so that you can find the job you really want. Working on OPT is one of the benefits associated with your F1 status, and we want to help you take full advantage of this opportunity. So let's get started. Here are a few things you need to know about OPT. It is optional. It is not a requirement by the US government or Liberty University. It is practical. It should relate to your area of study, and it gives you the opportunity to gain experience for the degree you completed. Let's take a closer look. OPT is 12 months off-campus work authorization. It is also training directly tied to the major you just completed, even if you have experience in another degree. You will still be classified as an F1 visa holder during the 12 months of OPT and into the 60-day grace period following the completion on OPT. The sole purpose of OPT is employment. Therefore, you must be employed to maintain status. The OPT begins on the OPT start date that is on your employment authorization document. During the 12 months of OPT, you're allowed no more than 90 days of unemployment. Please remember that vacation time and holidays allowed by your employer do not count against you. While on OPT, you must work or volunteer for at least 20 hours per week. You may be curious to know what happens if you can't find a job in 90 days. Well, you have three options. The first option is to find a volunteer position that relates to your major. You must volunteer at least 20 hours per week to meet your requirement of your OPT work authorization. The second option is to leave the US. And the final option is to apply for another visa status or continue your education through another degree program. Whether you have found employment after 90 days or not, you must report it to your ISA. If you do not report employment to your ISA, CVIS can terminate your I-20 record. If this happens, please talk to your ISA immediately. If you have obtained a job, make sure to report your employment or volunteering before the 90 days expire. While on OPT, you can have either short-term or long-term employment. If you're hired for a traditional job where you report to work each day at a certain time, this is considered long-term employment. This type requires the employment to be directly related to your major. It has to be at least 20 hours per week. Unlike CPT and other working visas, OPT is very flexible, and you can actually work for multiple employers. In other words, you do not have to work for the same employer or company for the entire 12 months of your OPT. If you have short-term employment, like a performing artist, for example, you must maintain documentation of all the hours worked during this time to prove you were maintaining status while on OPT, and you were not unemployed. Short-term employment includes contracted jobs that last for 2 weeks or 1 month. With contracted jobs, you are not considered to be an employee of a company. Now, let's discuss work for hire. Similar to the short-term employment is work for hire, where you may work as an employee contracted for a specific period of time, working on a specific task. You will receive tax documentation for all the hours worked, and you will be required to show proof of those hours. You can also choose to be a self-employed business owner. To do this, you must have all the proper business licenses, work full-time, and your business must relate to your area of study in your most recent degree program. Like with other jobs, you will be required to have a thorough documentation of all the hours worked. While not impossible, it is more difficult to change your status to H-1B or other working visa statuses if you do contracted or self-employed short-term work during your OPT. If you're unable to find a job, please remember you can volunteer or participate in an unpaid internship to maintain your OPT status. You will want to ensure that you volunteer a minimum of 20 hours per week and to report any unpaid as well as paid employment to your ISA so they can update your record. So, how do you verify your employment? You will need to request a letter from your employer stating the dates that you have worked or volunteered for the company. For contracted or self-hire type of jobs, you can maintain a spreadsheet of hours worked. We highly recommend you keep documentation of jobs and hours worked through employment verification letters from your employers. You may be wondering how to confirm if your OPT is related to your degree. Please note that it is up to you and your employer to justify that it is related. Here are a few questions that will help you with that. Can I receive an H-1B visa for this job? Does this job require my degree? Do my specific job duties within the company relate to what I studied in my major at Liberty University? After you finish your OPT, you will have a grace period of 60 days. During this time, you can be present in the US, but you may not be employed or continue volunteering. So what should you do during this grace period? Well, you have a few options. You should either prepare for departure from the US, begin a new degree at Liberty University, transfer to another school, or apply for a change of status. Let's go into a bit more detail about changing to H-1B. H-1B is the most common working status after OPT. There are two different types of H-1B. Employers that are subject to an H-1B cap. This means the employer is subject to the federal mandate that limits how many H-1Bs can be processed in the US for the year. And those cap-exempt employers. Those subject to an H-1B cap are normally for-profit companies. For this visa, you must submit your H-1B application by April 1st. If your application is approved, your start date will be October 1st. Depending on your graduation date, you may only have one opportunity to apply for a change of status to H-1B through a job offer from a for-profit company. Examples of cap-exempt employers would be nonprofit organizations, universities, research groups, and the US government. These employers have no cap and no lottery. There's no application deadline, and the start date can be any time. The US government allows you to apply for an extension of your 12-month OPT if you graduated with a degree in a STEM field. STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. If you complete a qualifying STEM degree, you can be eligible for an additional 24 months of OPT work authorization. Please note that not all science degrees qualify for this extension. Nursing, for example, does not qualify. This does not include a Bachelor's of Science degrees, for example, a Bachelor's of Science in Communication. And it has to be a specific field of a qualifying degree. If you have a qualifying STEM degree, you must also find an employer who participates in an online verification system called E-Verify. The system is used to assure employers that you are legally able to work in the US. To request more information regarding LU qualifying STEM degrees or the STEM extension application process, please schedule a meeting with your ISA. You must be careful to stay in status during your OPT. So how exactly do you do this? Notify your ISA as soon as you obtain employment and provide your employer's name and address. You should also notify the ISA of any changes to your local address during OPT. This way, your ISA can make the necessary changes with CBIZ. You should also remain employed 9 out of the 12 months authorized OPT. Let's go over some questions concerning OPT. Can you obtain a social security number on OPT?
Yes, you can apply for a social security number with your OPT application. If you already have a social security number, you do not need a new one.
Can you renew your driver's license on OPT? Yes. However, you cannot renew your driver's license until you have your OPT in hand and the start date has begun for employment indicated on the card. If your driver's license expires before you receive your OPT card and the start date has begun, you will not be permitted to legally drive during that period. Can you move while your OPT application is processing? The address that you put on your OPT application is the address where your card will be sent. If the card is misplaced or thrown away, you'll have to reapply. If you do move, be sure to update the USCIS with your new address immediately. Can you work without the OPT card? No, you must have the OPT card in hand and the start date has arrived before beginning work. What is the last day you can apply for OPT? Your application must be postmarked the last day of your 60 days grace period following your graduation. I strongly recommend that you apply for OPT before you graduate. Do you lose your OPT when you get a new I-20 for grad school? No, your OPT will not cancel once your I-20 is made for grad school. It will cancel the day of the program start date on your graduate studies I-20. Can you travel on OPT? We do not recommend that you travel outside the US during OPT, as you can be denied the re-entry to the US. However, if you must travel, we recommend you get a letter from your employer stating the dates you will leave and that they know you're coming back. We also suggest that you take copies of your last 2 months of pay stub showing the hours that you have worked, as well as your employment authorization document. Can you be a student on OPT? No, you cannot take classes on OPT, not even online classes. Students on OPT will receive an IO hold on their account so that you cannot register for any Liberty classes. Can you be a student worker until your OPT card comes? No, your student employment at Liberty ends the day you graduate. For more information regarding H-1B visas or moving into another status after OPT, please contact our immigration lawyer, Art Serratelli, for free consultations and immigration advice. After you have collected all of the required documents for your OPT application, please schedule an appointment with your international student advisor to review your documents to continue the application process. We hope this information has been helpful to you as you consider applying for OPT. Our desire is to help you be successful as you seek employment now that you are approaching graduation. Congratulations on all your hard work thus far.